يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Saturday edition of Let's Talk with me, Julie Alli. Do hope you're going to keep me company right up until 10 o'clock. We have some interesting guests. I always say it, but it is true. We have some interesting guests on the show this morning and you truly are going to be inspired. We know that gender-based violence is playing out in a very big way in our country. We're giving it as much exposure as we possibly can because it's a scourge that we as society need to get rid of. So to talk about gender-based violence, we will have Samantha Moahi, founder of Waves of Women, who will be coming in to talk about that horrendous issue. Marco Martins will also join us a little later on to talk about entrepreneurship in teens. And right now in studio, I have two young ladies who are truly entrepreneurs. They're here to talk about the business they have set up, how it's doing for them, and how they can inspire other young people watching us this morning. So it's not doom and gloom. Don't think that you're necessarily going to be landing that dream job of yours. Sometimes in life you're going to have to go out and make it on your own and do it for yourself. These two girls have decided just that, and 2 years down the line things are looking pretty good for them. They are Zikayla and Sean Lee, and they're here to share their story with us. Morning, girls. Welcome to the program.
Morning.
Exciting, isn't it?
Yes.
Very especially since you are young, you're young entrepreneurs. You've come together, you met at university, and you've decided the big bad corporate world might not be the place for you. You're going to do things for yourselves. Let's start with you. What's the story? You're a photographer.
Yes, I'm a photographer and graphic designer. I actually double majored in both the little
disciplines.
Yes. And Zikayla does photography, and then she started the company in varsity already based around photography, and then we went on and I jumped on with graphic design as a skill set, and that's how we came about.
All right, so you guys graduated about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes,
and
more or less.
Pardon?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly, okay. Yeah. Did you decide once you're at university that you're going to do, go into your own business, or did you consider the corporate world as an option? Or is it the doom and gloom that you read about and hear about that made you decide you're not even going to venture in that field?
To be very honest, I've had parents that have always kind of had an entrepreneurial upbringing, so I've always had that go-set mind of it's not actually that doom and gloom. So I first started it maybe in my second year. I decided, you know what, might as well start while I'm at varsity, because once I leave, if I do want to go into a corporate venture, then I can, but if I don't, I do have something to immediately fall back onto. And I was fortunate enough to meet Sean Lee at varsity, which made it so much better to have more skill sets in our company or in my company at the time, because I didn't do graphic design or anything really of that matter. So I handled the photography, and I thought, what a better way to jump another person on.
Tell us about the unique name of your company. Why did you come up with that name? How is it pronounced? I find it is a bit of a tongue twister, but anyway.
So actually, would you like to explain the name?
So I started it out as Captured, and then I met Sean Lee, which I thought, maybe I should bring myself into it because it has a C. Her name starts with a C. So I was like, no, man, maybe I need to be into it. So I put the Z straight after the P, and I was like, it sounds weird, but there's so many photography companies that are already registered as Captured.
Oh.
So yeah, so I thought, what, as I'm registering it, let me just put the Z in, put a little bit of both of us in, because it is a partnership, and that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah, so our logo actually, we shortened it to CZ,
yeah.
And then it says Captured underneath.
Okay.
So it's like a little personal touch that we could actually add into the company. So yeah.
You talk about your business, which is really about graphic design, about videography, photography, and website design. How do you people conceptualize? If a customer comes to you, a client comes to you, how do you sell the concept of what you believe is right for that customer? And then you both have your own areas of expertise.
Yes.
How do you collaborate?
Within graphic design, we will more likely set up a meeting with the client, see what their dislikes are, and work around what they also are interested in. We usually show previous work so that we can relate back to something, see what they like, don't like, and then see what they are planning for their future company. Take the identity that they've already created and come up with, for example, if we do a logo, that's how I can actually speak to them about creating an identity through their logo, and then we conceptualize through there. They get revision rounds, and yeah, it's fun to do. It's really nice. It's a creative process with the client. It's a journey that we have to go through together. And I think photography is actually also like that when we set up personal shoots. Yeah.
But I think how it kind of ties together is what's really nice is that no matter what we both specialize in, we both have very creative minds. So to have very different aspects of that every single day is extremely interesting. So I might see a logo very beautifully, let's say with a circle around it, but with her mind it might come across very different, and to put that together actually creates such beautiful logos, such beautiful brand identity, such beautiful images. It's really nice that we're both creative, that we can create such beautiful stuff together.
But normally when you put two creative people together in a room, it can be very volatile.
Very.
How do you manage that?
We often do have our disputes, but we do eventually come to an agreement and say, okay, we'll compromise on this part and compromise on that part, and then put it together to create a different idea that we can both agree on. In certain cases, we would rather sacrifice our idea in some way to create a whole new one that we both will like in the end.
Yeah, so basically what's nice about that is we'll come up with maybe 3 ideas of one concept. So even with photography, I mean, you could photograph one individual and have 3 to 5 different images for that person. But we'll both sit and we'll both rule out exactly what we don't like and kind of come up to one conclusion, which is extremely helpful because that conclusion is still really creative and still really nice. But together, either we know where our strong skills are and where we're weak and where we, stuff like that. So we know where she will lack in something that I will see better than she will, and which is nice because we know each other really well, so it's easy to work like that actually.
Do you believe that if you'd gone your separate ways, you might have been more or less successful? What's this partnership bring to both your lives?
I think we would have been quite successful on our own as well, but I think together we really created a powerhouse as well.
Yes.
Because within our company we actually have team members as well that also have different skill sets. We actually brought on 3D rendering, and our team member, he's just so passionate about it, and I think our company is really based off of the passion we have for what we can create and everything. So together I just feel like it's such a nice, refreshing moment.
It's that time of year, perhaps a little too late, when lots of young people are going to start thinking about their futures, the type of professions or courses that they'd like to go into.
Yes.
In terms of preparation for the real world.
Yes.
Can you go into a bit of in-depth about your different areas of expertise, just to give young people an idea of the scope, what it entails, how difficult it is, challenges, etc., and is it viable to kind of go into those spaces that in these tough economic times? Let's start with you.
So I must say,
and you both went to university. These are university courses.
Yes.
Right.
We actually both have a degree, which is really nice. So we actually studied at the Open Window Institute, which is in Centurion, which they offer a degree, which is really nice because for both of us, we wanted a degree behind our name. And being creative, it's normally just about courses. So to have a degree is really fantastic. And I must say, where we went, it really did teach us how to take on the challenging times. So it is very challenging. I mean, it's very cutthroat. But it's very exciting at the same time because it actually makes you unique. It makes you fight for it. It makes you be more a step ahead of everybody else, which is fun. It's really fun. You have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge yourself. You have to research. You have to know what you're doing, because if you don't, you could drown. but you could actually swim really nicely.
All right, we're going to
well.
an ad break now. I'm going to leave you with a question and you can respond right after. Because you're new in the market, only 2 years old, and you're pretty young, fresh out of university, how do you convince people that you'll be able to deliver the goods and not let them down? But we'll respond right after the ad break. The two lovely young ladies in studio is Shanli and Zikaela. They're talking about their merger, their collaboration, their business, which is 2 years old. And of course, after the ad break, we're going to speak to them about how they try and market themselves and get the much needed business, but also we're going to ask them to unpack their different professions so that young people watching us this morning who may consider or haven't even thought about these modalities as a profession can start thinking differently about what they want to do with their lives. Zikaela and Shanli are in studio, young entrepreneurs. I think it gives us hope that the country is headed in the right direction. Here's young people right out of university believing in themselves and making it work for them. Shanli, my question, how do you convince prospective clients that you are able to deliver? I'd look at you and think, my word, she's too young. How much of life experience does she have? What is she going to offer or bring to the table that I can trust? I'd rather go to someone who's been in the business for 10 years or more.
So we always joke around with our clients and say we are young, we don't need sleep. So whenever they need the workout, we can get it out very quickly. But in a market where there's freelancers doing it for cheaper, we really do have to convince our clients, and we've set up a portfolio that is very diverse, where we've got videography, photography, we've got a 3D renderer, as I mentioned, as our team member, we've got even social media management that we can provide for the clientele. So when it comes to photography, for example, if you would come to me for a product photo, we would even offer that we do a 3D render of your product to actually have a more crisp image and like convince you to do rather something else that's more unique than just a photo of it. Where 3D render, you can actually have a view of the object all around.
Multi-dimensional.
So, yes. So we try to come up with innovative ideas for the clientele, and we come with ideas. So in our first meetings, we make sure we sit together, come up with a great idea for the company, and often we do get the job through the ideas because we are sitting in a company, or not a company, in a what do you call it?
A meeting.
Yes, we're sitting in the meeting where we can actually provide the client with future ideas where we can take them further in what they are doing as well. And I think that's something we need to.
Okay, so what do you do? Do you do business cards? Do you do letterheads? Do you do signage? Do you do web profiles? Just talk us through all of that. And I'm thinking, why should they come to you? They could just go to the printer around the corner,
of course,
and get it done at probably quarter the price.
So basically what we offer, we actually don't do web development. So graphic design it's basically, a lot of people do consider it as web development, but web development is around coding and stuff like that, which we don't do. We're not equipped for that. So basically what we do with the graphic design, we can do posters, we can do flyers, we can do business cards, we can do letterheads, we can do email signatures. It's so diverse. We can do so much with graphic design. With the photography, we do corporate headshots, we do events, we do baby photo shoots, we do so much.
Wedding shoots as well, I should imagine.
We do it all.
That's big business at the moment,
yes.
Baby shoots and wedding shoots.
Yes.
And I think that'll keep you going and busy enough for a long, long time. However, has technology, or is technology not at some point going to overtake photography? Is photography a dying art perhaps?
It might be in a couple of years, but right now it's not. I think even though technology is really fast at the moment, people still like a human interaction. So let's say at your wedding, it's nice to meet your photographer. It's nice to share that moment with somebody that you've been speaking to for the past 2 or 3 months, and for us to capture your entire day. And I don't think a lot of the time that AI will ever really get your emotions. You know, a lot of time that kind of stuff misses it. So we watch you and we see you go through your emotions on your day. It's a big day, and we capture that really nicely. So we're there standing there all the time.
The difference between videography and photography, which medium do you prefer, both of you, and why?
I think for us, we actually prefer photography. It's just the still imagery is
it's long lasting.
different. Yes, yeah.
It's forever.
Yes.
Yes.
So is a video, but
A video is just, it's nice to capture the essence in a video, but just a photograph, it's nice to go actually and look at it and say, yeah, I remember smiling that way and this is what happened in that photo. Like, it's just...
people get to interpret it differently, which is really nice.
It's like art.
Yes,
Where, you
exactly.
know, each person sees
That's
something
exactly
unique
it.
in
Yes.
that photo or that piece of art.
Yes.
Challenges up to now, and what do you see ahead of you? And I believe you also have a vision for 2020, which is just around the corner.
So scary. Challenges, I think, for us is definitely that we're young, but I think our passion really pulls through. I think a lot of people see that we want to be there. You know, we're not just there as another photographer just to get it quickly done. We really... We love being there. We love doing what we do. So I think a challenge is definitely that we're young. I think a challenge is definitely, especially where we're trying to go extremely corporate, which, I mean, exactly like you've always said, there's always a photographer for it. So corporate is very challenging, but I think with our head held high, we will make it.
Yeah, I think we're quite ready for the challenge and, yeah.
Young and full of energy and full of fight.
Yes, that's...
Vision for 2020, and why specifically 2020, which is about 3 months away?
So I would say for 2020, because we actually do have a lot of bigger plans. We're planning on actually moving our studio into Sandton side instead of where we are based in Edenvale. So we're looking at moving, we're looking at growing. We have to grow. We are growing twice the size next year. We are going to expand our client base. We are looking at pulling in even bigger more team members into our company, and that's more or less what we are planning for next year.
How do you canvas for business? You're talking about expanding, but obviously you need the capital to allow the expansion, because you can't have a huge team and then not enough business to be able to pay everybody. Otherwise, you're just going to fizzle out and die.
What really helps, I think, is the relationships that we've already made on the way. So we're very fortunate in meeting the people that we have, and a lot of people, like I have said, have seen our passion and are very ready to jump onto a lot of that we with. So for an example, our 3D renderer, we studied with him, and he's seen our passion and he's willing to just jump on, you know, no questions asked, which we're very, very blessed to have. So I think a lot of it, we're fortunate. A lot of it kind of just comes to us, which is nice.
I know that you guys have been to university, you are degreed,
yes.
But also that you were exposed to smart teens, and I mean you're way beyond smart teens, but you learned something. You guys were there doing the photography, but it was an awesome experience for both of you. Talk to me about it. And just to add, Mardine Tyson has been a guest on the show, and so has her son and a few people that have been on this program. So talk to us about the value of someone attending a Smart Teens workshop.
With her workshops, I really found that the younger kids don't always concentrate and they aren't always interested in a lot of things. But with the Smart Teen workshop, they were actually very involved in every activity. They didn't get bored. They were really into it. They were asking questions, doing the forms, everything. It was really nice to see that they really got into it. Even we were there for about 3 days on the one workshop, and we saw 2 kids. They did a little dancing course, and we saw them actually come out of their shell together to actually create such a nice little bond between each other and come out of their shells in the 3 days. And I think they actually won a little certificate thingy with the dancing course. It was very nice to see how the kids changed over just 3 days. Like, they really did come out of their shells. It was nice.
It's about self-esteem, self-confidence,
Yes.
etc. What did you learn? You were there in the capacity of the photographer in videography. But obviously there was a lot of learning that happened for you as well.
Yes. So I quite liked who did the course? Chris, yes, Chris. He was actually teaching you how to memorize things. Sometimes I can be horrible with my memory, so it was nice to actually be taught how to remember things, how to think outside the box. When you actually think of something green, you can think of what else is green. You really think out of the box, and I think that's something we don't get taught in school self. We're taught to walk a straight path, and with this you think outside the box, and I thought that was quite cool.
And what about you, Zakaela? What was the learning curve, even though you guys have been there, done that?
Yeah.
But you both went through a learning curve in that 3 days or however long you spent with Smart Teens.
Yeah. So what's really nice about photographing things is that you're often behind the scenes. So you actually end up being forgotten about, but it's actually really nice. So we networked really well, which was fantastic for us. So I actually learned through Chris, funny enough, as well, and through Medine, that just go and get it, you know, especially with Chris's talk and stuff like that. He spoke about being an entrepreneur and how you can just be a fighter, go and get it, and which Medine has really helped with as well. So a lot of the time I spoke with her behind the scenes, and what I learned often is that she's just go get it. It's all about going to get it, and it's really nice to learn that behind the scenes, not even watching, being in the course the whole time, because a lot of the time you get caught up in what people are trying to teach you. So behind the scenes, it's nice to learn something a bit different. Yeah.
And it's about passion, it's about self-belief. If you believe enough and confident enough, you can go out and get it. Exactly what you guys have done, and I commend you for it, and I wish you lots of future success. We're ending the program now. Your very strong message to young people watching us this morning, entrepreneurs, dropouts, etc. What would you say to them?
Never stop. You'll eventually get there. Whether you think you are or aren't going to, you are. You're going to get there. And it's really fun. Just keep your passion, and it's really fun on the way. It's hard, but just don't stop.
There will be tears along the way too.
Definitely.
But you can get there.
Just don't stop.
Shanli?
I would say learn and apply your knowledge. That's, I think, the biggest thing.
Lovely chatting with you guys. Lots and lots of future success.
Yes, thank you.
Hope to chat again sometime
Yes.
soon.
Thank
Go
you.
well.
Thank you.
And there you have it, two entrepreneurs right out of university talking about their passion, which is obviously photography, graphic design, and 3D rendering. Amazing stuff. This is the way the world is going. And if you are thinking of going in that direction of study, they've just reassured us there's lots of work out there. You just need to be hungry enough. Don't go away. We'll be back with you in a minute or two. We'll be joined by Marco Martins to talk to us about entrepreneurship for teenagers. Welcome back. Great to be with you. And we have another very intelligent person on the show. Should I rather say someone who is full of passion and believes in entrepreneurship, believes in sharing his knowledge, in uplifting, upskilling, and empowering young people. He comes from a teaching background. He's moved away from that. He's now into entrepreneurship for teenagers. And he's also busy with something called Uncovering Greatness. That kind of gives me so much of hope for our country, for our youth, for young people going forward, believing in themselves and making the most of all of their opportunities. My guest is Marco Martins, and he's going to talk about his work with us this morning. Morning, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. I'm always pleased when I hear about people putting a hand up to other people, because that's what your work's all about. You worked as a teacher in a private school on the East Rand. At some point you decided you want to do more, you want to give back. What was going through your mind about what was this more and how you're going to give back?
Thank you. Great question. I think for me, I've always loved kids, and I've loved teaching because of the interactions you can have, the way you can really, you build a relationship with a child, and it's amazing the stuff that comes out, the way you can build them together. The one thing, though, that always niggled at me was the fact that there was a little question inside me going, am I doing enough? Am I is what I'm teaching relevant? Are the things that I'm teaching going to change these children's lives? And a lot of the time, I just felt like there was more. There was more I could be teaching, and there was a better way to be more effective to create not only a sustainable future for these kids, but also to get them excited about learning. I often feel that learning itself has such a bad reputation, and I can understand why. I went through a schooling system that didn't exactly support my style of learning. And I wanted to, part of the reason why I went into teaching was to break those limitations. And what I discovered along this journey in first of all, when I started studying beyond what my teaching degree gave me, and started moving into other avenues and entrepreneurship and such, I learned that there are so many things to learn, so many ways to learn. And if I realized that if I really wanted to give my kids a head start, and I like to say that all children are my children. If I really wanted to give them a head start, I needed to do it in a way that was very different, because I honestly believe that the future that our children are stepping into is going to be a very different place. And if we equip them properly, we are going to give them the tools that they need to not only survive but thrive.
As a teacher, an ex-teacher, you're still in that space, obviously. You are working with an organization called Uncovering Greatness. It's about people tapping into their own potential, but we'll get to that in a little while. You're also very passionate about entrepreneurship for teenagers, and that's a course you run. We'll talk about that in more detail also in a short while. But as a teacher or an ex-teacher, you do create this bond with children, and at the end of the year when they have to move on, I'm sure a part of your heart goes with them. But that being said, and you came to the realization that there's something wrong with our system here. We're not doing the right thing by our children, and that is why you've moved away. We also hear a lot of children, I hear this all the time, children saying, I hate school. Do I really have to go back to school? I hear this often enough from a 7-year-old in my family. She keeps saying she hates school, and she's in a pretty good school. And I worry about that. I worry about how that's probably dampening or breaking her spirit going forward. How should they respond when children make those type of statements?
Sure, it's a powerful question. I think the schooling system has its place. Don't get me wrong. I'm not slating school. There is a place for primary education and secondary education. I think when it comes to those questions or those moments where you have a young child who's going, I hate school and I don't want to do this, I think the key is not to fight them on it, but to really hear what they're trying to say. So many times I think we don't listen enough to our children, and it's difficult, especially when they just started the journey at 7 and they have all these years ahead of them. I think the key there is to realize that there's a sale that's being made. Right? The children are going, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to do this anymore. And your opportunity there is to open up the communication line and to find out what is it about school that you don't like.
Because it could be a multiple number of issues there. It could be a bully, it could be a teacher that she doesn't like, it could be that she's bored, it could be that the work is too difficult for her. So you need to start unpacking that. And that's a big, big job, is it not? Would you as an ex-teacher suggest then for those parents perhaps to get this child into some form of assessment, just to hear, because we as parents won't be able to uncover that, just to hear what the issues are and perhaps address them and maybe stop a potential huge problem in the future?
Look, I think getting help is very, very necessary. From my experience, I think most of the help that parents can do is expose your children to more. Yes, when you sit down with a child and you start asking questions, what is it about school that you don't like, you start to get a broader understanding of what it is that they're not enjoying in their experience. But from there, I think it's so important for parents to expose them to so much more, not just sports, but just different environments. Because from my experience, a school, everything is an environment. Your home life is an environment. Your school is an environment. And there's so many different environments that you can put your child into, and perhaps one will work for them. And I think that exposure is so critical. If you watch kids whose parents travel a lot and they travel with them, they have so much more experience to draw on. They don't have this limited life experience of one place and one way of doing things. I think that's the key to all of this. Let's give our children more of an experience to see what is out there.
That being said, we now come to entrepreneurship for teenagers. Obviously, this is giving your child, exposing your child to that little extra more, another dimension in their path, in their growth path. What is unique about entrepreneurship for teenagers?
Thank you. So the reason why I got excited with entrepreneurship for children years ago when I first did it with kids was that it gave them an opportunity to see how their abilities, their talents, their gifts can be leveraged. And that for me astounded me. It was the one space where you're allowed to be whoever you need to be, authentically you, and at the same time be of value to the people around you. And I think especially where teenagers are at, they're surrounded by so many different
trying to make sense of the world.
Trying to make sense of the world in a vastly different world that we grew up in, where social media is rampant and there's so much superficiality behind it. There's so many things to hide behind. And entrepreneurship for me gives children an opportunity, or teenagers an opportunity to dispel those myths, to break down those walls and go, look, this is me. I want to know about you. So we can create that sustainability, that fair exchange. There's so many lessons in entrepreneurship. I'm not saying that kids need to become entrepreneurs. They can be employed, but it gives them options. And in today's world, do we need options?
Oh, absolutely. On that note, let's go for an ad break. I'm talking to Marco Martins. He's here to talk to us about uncovering greatness. We're looking at one of the aspects, and that, of course, is entrepreneurship for teenagers. We'll ask him to unpack that a little after the ad break, and then we'll talk also about how to uncover greatness in not only you, but everyone around you. Still to come, we're going to be talking gender-based violence with Samantha Moagi. She is the founder of Waves of Women. Right now, we are talking uncovering the greatness, not only in you, but all of those around you. And to help us understand this concept, we have Marco Martins, an ex-teacher in studio with us. Your teaching background obviously helps in the current position you're in.
In some ways it does. In some ways it does, but I'll be honest, the way that I teach these programs that we run is vastly different to school. It's experiential learning. We're talking about days where the day starts at about 8 o'clock and it finishes at 5, but the kids, everyone involved is just busy the entire time. It's a different way of teaching.
And they invested in what they're doing.
Completely invested in what they're doing. And that's why it's so different. For me, teaching in this way, it's a different style of teaching that I've had to learn called facilitation, and a specific way of facilitation that really just brings out the best of everyone in the room.
Why would any parent decide to expose their child or children to these programs? How often do they run? Where are they run? And cost factors. I've thrown about 5 questions at you.
Thank you. Why would a parent invest or expose their children to these programs? Well, if you look at the state of our current economy, jobs are disappearing. AI is taking over a lot of positions that we know, and there's the sense of scarcity. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate and excited about these programs is that it's not a lack of scarcity. It's just a lack of know-how of where to start. It's a perspective really on where to get started. I mean, the biggest thing that my mentor Barry Mitchell teaches is that sales equals income. And that's why sales is a life skill. And if you know how to sell, if your children know how to sell, what sort of life will they have? There are no limitations when we are able to go out and communicate ideas to people, build relationships with them, and show them how we can be of service to them. And that's the fundamental of this entire organization that I'm a part of. Uncovering Greatness is about serving people to help them uncover their greatness and lead extraordinary lives.
So kids are still at school, maybe in their matric year, maybe in grade 11 or a lower grade. Parents send them onto the scores. How's it going to change their worldview?
Great question. For me, it's a case of they will get a different perspective on what life is about. I find that often when we're in that home stretch of school, we're just thinking, go to school, I'm almost finished school, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to get a good job, and then I'll live a comfortable life. But that formula isn't working for a lot of people these days. So these programs are going to give kids a different option. They're going to give those teenagers who are finishing school an opportunity to go, okay, you know what? That was the path that I wanted to go on. Maybe I still want to travel in that path, but in a different sense, in a different way. And in doing so, they also take the pressure off their parents. I mean, how wonderful would it be if parents didn't have to support their children past high school? What about if the kids learned how to generate their own income so that they could pay their way through whatever tertiary education they wanted to? Or if they wanted to do something else, they would pay for themselves. How much pressure would that take off parents?
And we're hearing now in the UK and the States and other parts of the Western world that more and more of adult children are either moving back with their parents, moving back in with their parents, or have just remained on continue living with their parents beyond university, etc., simply because they're unable to find work or sustain themselves. And the unemployment issue is not endemic only to South Africa, it's all around the world.
Exactly, and that's why entrepreneurship is such a big solution. In the grand scheme of the world economy, entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to create jobs. Entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to revitalize the economy and bring investment, not just into our country, but investment back into ventures around the world.
You walked away from a teaching job thinking that you needed to be more, do more, give back to society in a bigger way. You then joined Uncovering Greatness. Tell us about them. Tell us about the man who wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because he has devised this game that we've got sitting on the little table here. How has that all panned out for you, and how have they inspired you? You have a mentor as well, and your mentor has been mentored and still being mentored by one of the greats in the world.
Yes, 100%. So my mentor, Barry Mitchell, has been mentored by Blair Singer, and he works very closely with Robert Kiyosaki in South Africa to run his programs. And I think that's what it really comes down to. We use a lot of teaching tools in the way that we facilitate, and one of them is Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. One of them is his game called Cash Flow. And this game is, he likens it to Monopoly on steroids. So this game, Robert Kiyosaki says, if you play this game 10 times, it'll change the way that you see money. It'll improve your financial literacy, which is something that we seriously lack in today's world. Uncovering Greatness, though, has a mission to really uplift the community of South Africa and the world beyond it by really helping people uncover their greatness by learning two fundamental things: how to sell, because if you can sell, you can create income, and you can change your trajectory, right? And also how to keep it. I mean, so many people are good at making money, but how do you keep it? And this is where this game comes in and really teaches anyone from the age of, say, 11 up, how to work with money. And if you ever get the chance to play this game, I'd really highly recommend it.
Is the game part of your course?
As part of the courses that we do, yes. In terms of the first initial course that we're running for teenagers called, can I mention the name? It's
of course.
Called Income Explosion for Teenagers. The game won't be a part of that program, but we do use it as a teaching tool because it really it gives a holistic understanding of finances that school will complicate. The reason why Robert Kiyosaki is such an amazing mentor to me, and why his Rich Dad book has been such a
worldwide bestseller.
Exactly, is because he distills and simplifies what it means to be financially literate. And that's what this game does.
Can one buy the book in perhaps one of the bookstores, for example? Not the book, the game. Is it available in bookstores?
It's not available in bookstores, but anyone interested, they can get in touch with us, and we would be happy to
sell it on to them. What do these courses cost, and how long does it last for?
Okay, great. Thank you for bringing that back. So the next program that we're running it's a 2-day program. It's happening the 23rd and the 24th of September.
It has to happen in the holidays, obviously.
Obviously in the holidays
or weekends.
So it's happening the 23rd and the 24th of September. That's a 2-day program. That's 2 days with Barry Mitchell, who is personally mentored by Robert Kiyosaki and works very closely with him. The cost of that program is 3,500 Rand. And in that program, Barry's going to teach what he taught his 10-year-old daughter to do when she was 10. She started her first business, and in the first year, she generated 10,000 Rand in profit. That's why I think it's such a powerful program, because it's a program taught for entrepreneurs by an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur that has spent over 30 years in the industry of sales and understands what it means to really bring out the best in people, and to equip them, not in a way of just building them up, but also equip them with skills that they can use and generate their own income. That's why I'm excited about this program for teenagers.
What else do you have in terms of the courses that you run? You're focusing very much on teenagers. I'm thinking adults, possibly someone who's, the economy is bad, so people are being retrenched. People need to reinvent themselves. Is there anything like that where you're offering and people can lift themselves up, dust themselves off, and go out into the marketplace again?
Yes. The answer to that is yes. And
what is that?
Excellent. So in terms of what you're mentioning now, we do a program called Before You Quit Your Job.
Oh, wow.
Which is specifically geared towards people who have jobs and who are looking to become entrepreneurs, either being forced to or because they willingly want to do it. Other programs that we have a 2-day program called Sales and Leadership Mastery Program. That is a personal development program that also is a business program that teaches people how to the fundamentals of sales and really takes them to a new level by the time that they leave that program. There are other programs like Awaken Your Financial Genius, which is based on Robert Kiyosaki's teachings, which are specifically geared towards improving your financial literacy so that you can go on and become an investor and do it in a way that is not only sustainable but intelligent, so that you're managing your risk. And there are many programs beyond that we develop, and people are welcome to visit our website, which is uncoveringgreatness.co.za, or visit our Facebook page. Could I mention that?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. That's Uncover Your Greatness. So at Uncover Your Greatness, that's our Facebook page. And Barry he's a generous teacher. He is constantly teaching on that site, on Facebook. You'll constantly get massive value from attending these programs.
We've come to the end of the show. I could sit here talking to you all day. But the one thing I do want you to stress on is we're talking about sales, the emphasis being on the word sales, teaching you to be an amazing salesperson and becoming an entrepreneur. But you could also, if you don't want to go down that road, you're not interested in becoming an entrepreneur, you don't want to be a salesperson, you just want to grow yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself. How would these courses get you to that point?
Great question. I'd say the power behind this brand is the mission, and the mission is clear. When you uncover your own greatness, you are able to help other people around you and uplift them, right?
So it's about self-discovery through the program.
Through the program, and we were talking and we're saying, look, there are a lot of programs out there. One thing I'll say especially about the Sales and Leadership Mastery Program that Barry runs here in South Africa is that it holds people to account in a way that no other program does. Barry really believes, through Blair Singer, one of the things that he teaches is context is so powerful. And the environment that we create for learning will decide how much you grow. That's what these programs do. They hold you in an environment where you are accountable to learn, where you are propelled into a different level of thinking, of behaving, because that's what it comes down to. It's all about behaviors. And it forces you to encounter yourself on a different level, looking at your mindset, looking at your behaviors, but really looking at your level of awareness and boosting it so that you can live. After you leave there, you not only have the experience that you had, but you go and apply it so that you lead an incredible life.
And even if you don't want to get into the business space, let's assume someone who's maybe semi-retired or just has the extra cash and want to probably invest in themselves. These type of programs is where you'll get to. You invest a little bit of time and money and you just walk away thinking differently. Your perception changes, does it not?
100%. Your perception, the more you expose yourself to different, for me it's a case of, I always ask myself, or one thing that we ask ourselves is, how big is your game? And we all play different games. The person who's begging on the side of the road is playing a very small game. The employee is playing a bigger game. People like Robert Kiyosaki, who is trying to reach a goal of
the global game.
A global game. And the more you expose yourself to people who are playing in different games, the more you are uplifted to see that there are different games.
And you're
everything is a
learning
game.
all the time,
Exactly.
every step of the way. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. I do wish we had more time, but perhaps another time you can come in and we can talk some more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Julie.
That was Marco Martins talking about, obviously, uncovering greatness, and not only in yourself, but the people around you. Because if you change your perception, if you change the way you interact, if you change the way you think, the people around you are going to respond differently. Don't go away. We're going to be talking a dark issue, gender-based violence. Welcome back. We now have Samantha Moahi in studio with us. She is the founder of an organization called Waves of Women, and we're going to try and look at the scourge. We're going to try and understand, should you be understanding this issue of gender-based violence? I don't think it needs understanding. I think that the men that perpetrate on innocent women and children need to be held to account in the harshest possible terms. But that's just me talking. Let's hear what Samantha has to say about this issue and how we as a country start healing and start making sense of gender-based violence. Morning, welcome to the program.
Morning, thank you very much for having me.
Great to have you here, and I see you are the founder of Waves of Women.
That's right.
What's that all about, and why have you invested your life in this organization?
So Waves of Women is a non-profit organization, and we were established in 2016 with the aim of financially empowering women, teenage girls, vulnerable women, and any widows, single moms that are finding it difficult to meet ends meet every day.
A lot of these women that you're referring to come out of very abusive relationships. Abuse is not only violence, physical violence against women. Abuse is also withholding financial support to those women. They must be very dependent on you, and you offer them financial assistance, but you can't do it for the rest of their lives.
No, absolutely not.
What else do you do for them so that they can be more independent?
So in the beginning stages, I'll make an example of a lady that comes in, for example, a rape victim. She's very emotionally broken down, hurt. Everything that she knows as a security system, her safety has been taken away, her self-esteem is broken. So in the first few, I would say 3 months or so, she needs to go for the counseling and the therapy. And that is where people need to know that it is okay to walk away from an abusive relationship, even if you are financially dependent on this man or husband or partner. Shelters in Gauteng and South Africa do exist for abused women and their children. They cover your basic needs. They give you access to counseling.
For how long?
For 3 to 6 months. And after that is where I do come in. And the role that Waves of Women plays is to give these women a skill, to train them,
Wow.
to equip them, to tell them that you can now stand on your own 2 feet. By going through a process with them, we teach them not just how to take the fish, but how to fish instead.
So what sort of skills are you offering? So you have these very broken women from shelters. Hopefully, after 3 or 6 months, they've gone through counseling. They're feeling better about themselves. They're beginning to heal. They don't feel like useless, hopeless, rejected second-hand citizens any longer because they've gone through counseling. So they're stronger. They're more spiritually uplifted. Is that enough? And then you come in. Is it enough what the 2 parties do? Are they then able to go out into the world and make place for themselves?
I absolutely believe that there is hope for them, that it is enough, that if society and every stakeholder and service provider plays their role in society, we can uplift this woman. It's very, very difficult once you've been through a cycle of abuse, because it's not necessarily one incident. It could be 20 years of incidents that have broken you down. And again, we speak about domestic violence not just being physical abuse. So not just a blue eye that reflects that you have been broken down in some way, but the emotional abuse, the financial abuse, the verbal abuse over years and years and generations of it. So it comes, and it is a generational curse that is brought upon a woman and the family line. And the problems that we do see as being common is that these women see what their moms have been through, what their grandmothers have been through. So when we as counselors come in as psychologists, we now have a team of life coaches, transformation coaches, business coaches that participate and assist us voluntarily so for now to break through some of the barriers that these women are actually facing to get them to where they need to be.
Samantha, how did you decide that your role is to uplift women in society and you founded Waves of Women? How did you have to build yourself up to be this pillar of strength for these broken women?
So I had to be a victim first.
Oh,
and
I thought there was a backstory.
Yes, always. You've got to go through a process, and for me, I don't call myself a victim any longer. I call myself, that was my training camp. That was where I had to exercise my muscles. That is where I had to learn my weapons. That is where I had to go hungry. That is where I had to go through, the war zone, only to be a voice for other women, and especially Indian women. We're very silent about abuse. When I look at other races and other cultures, it's easily said that we are being abused. But when it comes to Indian women, it's hard for us to say this. It's hard for us to break away from the cycle of violence. Yes.
It's the shame, it's the judgment.
That's it.
What will
Going
people
back home,
say?
what will the neighbors say? All of that, yes. And also...
So for how long were you in a cycle of abuse?
5 years.
5 years of marriage.
5 years of marriage, yes.
What did it take for you to walk away from that marriage? Because we are often told by women that there's a lot of fear, trepidation, uncertainty, judgment, and all of those things that they have to stand up to when they walk away from a marriage like that. How did you build yourself up? What was the first few steps you took?
The first few steps that I took was to report it, to say to people that this was happening to me, and then also to make a stand that that is not my worth, that is not my portion, that is not what I deserve. I did not do anything wrong to stay and to be in that abusive relationship. So I had to come to terms with the fact that I was not doing anything wrong, and walking away was very hard. But I had to walk away because I was not prepared to be delivered to my mom's doorstep in a coffin.
Oftentimes, that sounds harsh, but we need to get the harshness of the story across, hopefully, to the boy children and the men watching us this morning. Oftentimes, the men in their defense will say, but she provokes me. She made me do it. She deserves it. She's not a fit enough mother. She's not a fit enough wife. This is all the wrongs that she's done or perpetrated, and that is why she deserves what she gets. How do you respond to that?
Absolutely not. No woman should ever deserve any form of violence, abuse, or anything that says to her that she is worthless. They are filled with value. They are precious. We are precious. We are valuable. We carry so much. We are independent. We are equal as human beings. And, definitely not to any woman that is sitting in that situation who feels that that is where she's supposed to be. I will say to you, woman, get out. And for the men that are doing this, I want to say that people must re-look at what the perpetrator is about. Because when we do go into counseling, and this is one of the things that I do through my chaplaincy, which is marriage counseling and rebuilding the marriage, is that often you find the perpetrator himself was a victim of some sort of trauma in his childhood. So be it physical abuse, verbal abuse, or even rape, men have gone through something that has turned them from a little boy into a big monster.
And men, it's okay for men to ask for help. There's nothing shameful about that. But oftentimes when the partner suggests it to the men, please go into counseling, they seem to think it's almost kind of sissy stuff, that men don't need to go into counseling. They're big enough, they can handle this, but they don't realize the harm and the damage they're doing. Let's just get back to the woman. We're not saying she's faultless or blameless in a partnership. And if things go horribly wrong, she may be responsible for things turning pear-shaped, but that doesn't give the man the right to abuse her in any way. I encountered a couple recently where the man was shouting and screaming at his wife, and I said, but that's not necessary. And he says, oh, but she does that to me all the time. That's not the answer, is it?
No.
How do we turn that situation around?
Well, for me, that definitely starts at our parenting. Early childhood development, nurturing and growing this human being and this human soul. I'd make the example of when you put a seed into the ground and when the little stem starts showing itself. It's very fragile, it's very gentle. We've got to use soft approach with it, and you monitor and you nurture this plant as it grows out of the soil. Likewise with a child. That child needs to be developed. That child needs to be taught what is right and wrong. And where does this start? It's with mom and dad. We are seeing more and more that we are living in a fatherless society and a motherless society, because now even the moms are going to work, empowering themselves, and children are now having to grow themselves up. And what they are being taught is often found either on television, on their iPads, on their cell phones, or
at school, in the schoolyard.
Yes.
And sadly, as much as we want to be good role models, depending on our circumstances, that doesn't necessarily work out the way we plan. But let's go for an ad break. When we come back, we'll talk some more. We are saying no to gender-based violence right here on ITV. So we're saying it very loudly, absolutely no. Stop the violence against women and defenseless children. Horrendous crimes are being perpetrated against women and defenseless girls and boy children. We at ITV are saying stop the violence, stop the femicide, stop the abuse. We are saying no to gender-based violence, and we have Samantha Moahi in studio talking about it. She's founded an organization called Waves of Women, where they support women from very abused relationships. They help them get back on their feet and give them dignity all over again. Samantha, we're talking about a generation of men. I hear what you say about being perfect role models to our growing children because they emulate our behaviors later on in life. But a generation of men have not been probably given the right parenting skills. They probably have been brought up in fatherless homes. They are dropouts, they are drug addicts, they are jobless, they are not educated. And I'm not saying that all of those men are the perpetrators. There are men who are educated, who have great jobs, who come from amazing homes, but they too beat up on their women. So where and how do we get this abuse, this violence, this horrendous perpetration? When and how do we stop it against women? We need to be addressing these men. This lost generation need to be addressed. How do we do it?
Well, absolutely correct in what you're saying. So the root cause of the problem, let's go there. Let's change our direction. I've been doing domestic violence, 16 days of activism, every Women's Month for the past 7 years, where the focus is on women. But I think we need to, as a society, as a country, needs to refocus where we direct our energy, our resources, our facilities to, and focus on the boy child again. And role players needs to come in. Let us not leave out the values and the morals. The religious sector, the faith-based organizations play a very, very important role in the male area.
And
Programs
fine.
within our churches.
Absolutely,
Yes.
it's crucial.
Yes.
However, the perpetrators need to undergo some form of counseling. They need to know that what they're doing is wrong. If the women are strong enough to report the cases and maybe they go through some sort of rehabilitation or serve some hard labor or some such thing, maybe the realization will dawn on them that what they're doing is not right. It is wrong to beat up on women and children. That doesn't make you a man. No. Beating up on women and children and screaming at women and children, that doesn't make you more of a man.
Absolutely.
That shows your weakness.
Absolutely.
That shows that you're totally out of control.
Yes, out of control. And saying out of control is that they have gone astray. So just to give you an example, what happens and what we go through as women is that once you are abused by your husband, let's say the perpetrator then goes into prison. He goes in and gets the best of the best because he gets the psychiatrist. He gets a qualification, he gets a degree in there, he gets 3 meals a day. And the woman with the
free boarding and lodging. The woman then is left to go into a shelter, get out of a home environment, out of their comfort zone. They distraught. They have to rebuild from scratch everything that she knows. And unfortunately, our government is not funding the shelters the way they should. They're not putting emphasis on budgets for the women that are in the shelters. The victim-offender dialogues are bringing the perpetrator in a forefront with the victim. To say you have done a wrong, we are trying to gap that bridge, but it's still not enough. It's still not enough for him to say he is sorry. Sorry does not cut it. Sorry is not enough. A sentence is not enough. His behavior has to change. And what is it going to take for him to realize he has a problem and his behavior has to change?
Yes.
I've said corporal punishment. But you're saying that it's pretty cushy in prison.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. What is the answer here?
Name and shame. British picture everywhere, because the victim is now in the forefront of every newspaper, in the community news. Her neighbors know about her rape and what she's gone through with her husband. He's shifted away from society, in prison now, and he carries on with life. If he does go to prison, that's another question, because many of our cases are going to the justice system, to the courts, but the cases are getting thrown out. Just this week, I was in a stakeholders meeting where the court officials are saying that the backlog for rape cases is so long that they are not able to get to the rape cases as and when they need to. Even the testing units are no longer valid by the time it gets to the magistrate.
So clearly the system has failed us as women.
Yes.
And clearly nothing is being done to address the perpetrators. Clearly, this cycle of violence is going to be ongoing. And I kind of question, so what's the point in us as women bringing this issue to the fore? Because nothing's going to change.
I really will not give up. I will not give up. For as long as I have a voice, for as long as I have a breath, I will go on and I will fight. The way the women of South Africa fought in 1956 for their freedom and their rights, we're going to continue. And I think and I believe that we will see this community, this society changing. And it starts, yes, again, with our children, with our sons, with our boys. But also, if we all take the stand as men, as women, as children, to say that violence is not the solution, and we've got to stop. We've got to end it. We've got to stop the cycle. We've got to stop what is going on. The cycle will only stop when you say so.
And it's not being a sissy. It's actually being a man to own up to your problem and to ask for help.
Absolutely. There's absolutely nothing wrong with men asking for help. Society has taught men that you should not cry. Don't be a sissy. Be a
Real
man.
men do cry.
Real men do cry. And the more you cry and the more you let it out and the more you heal and the more you allow people to come in and to assist you, because these problems are bigger than we think. So get the help that you need. Admit to yourself that you have a problem.
Samantha, why do you believe that South Africa is so broken, that we're seeing such horrendous crimes against women and children? The one thing that also came to mind as you were speaking about the perpetrator perhaps spending jail time or going for counseling, he may be so angered and pushed over the edge that he may come back and kill his spouse because he is in a rage that is totally unimaginable. And there's that element to worry about as well.
We are an angry society. We are filled with anger. We are filled with hurts. And what I think it is that we're not admitting that when we go through trauma, that it was something that has emotionally disturbed my soul. And we are not dealing with that soul. We are not crying out for the help that we need. I see many bleeding hearts in South Africa every day. The bleeding hearts continue to bleed. People are
as
not getting
waves
help.
of women, sorry for the interruption,
Yes.
as waves of women, what can you do with more than 1 million women behind you? Let's assume the entire country's women around you. How can you petition government perhaps to change things in the country, that men can wake up to the realization that they need the help and go for the necessary help, the necessary counseling, so that we can start healing as a nation? It sounds very simplistic the way I'm putting it across to you. I know there's a lot of work, blood, sweat and tears that's going to be involved here. But do you think that collectively there is something that can be done?
Absolutely, yes. So there are certain dates or days where we are very loud about domestic violence, about violence against women and children, and that is usually in our Women's Month, and we forget about it. And then what we look forward to now is the 16 days of activism. Why 16 days? Who said it should be 16 days? Why don't we change our focus to making it 365 days, 24 hours, 7 days a week, all the time, that we say as women that we will not stop, we will not hold back, we will continue to struggle until our president, the government, the country and the world hears our voice.
In the meantime, we are in a very difficult situation. Everybody is adding their voice to the GBV issue. Is there anything you believe that the wife or the female partner can do at home, in the home front, just to keep the peace? Or is it asking for too much? Is it really saying to the woman that it's not your fault, it's not your responsibility to keep quiet, it's not your responsibility to pretend that everything's okay? You need to speak up and say what's going on is not right, despite the repercussions.
Definitely, absolutely. It's not okay to keep quiet. For one, you do not know when the next blow is going to be the one that kills you. If you are a mother, you have a responsibility to your children to be the example. So would you rather be a dead mother or a mother that walks away? And secondly, you've got to speak out. You've got to get help. I'm not saying that you've got to get divorced or leave the home, but get your counselors in. Be it your spiritual counselors, be it your priests, your pastors, your mulanas, or elders that would come together as a family, sit down and say, look, let's make some changes towards these couples. We're not seeing that happen enough in society. We're not getting our elders to speak up like they used to before. I think the older generation has also become silenced. And that for me is in itself one of our biggest problems, because they are the ones who carry the wisdom for the youth. So we've got to bridge the gap between granny, mother and daughter.
Lots and lots of hard work ahead of us. It's not going to improve overnight. Let's hope and pray that real men do reach out and ask for help, and that we don't have to have future conversations around gender-based violence. Thank you indeed for coming in. It was really wonderful talking to you. Keep up the amazing work with Waves of Women.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And that's where we leave it. Thank you indeed. We end on a very dark note. We say stop the violence against women and children. Enough is enough. Till the next time, as always, take care on the roads. And it's Khud Hafiz from me, Julie Alli.
Ya hala, 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 ya hala. حن قلبي على جمرة الخير هلا، حن قلبي على جمرة الخير.